Coming up on the Cam Show, the best and worst trade deadline deals in Red Sox history. Then we find out if your state is a hater state or a lover state. And the best yo-yoer you have ever seen. All that and more coming up on the Cam Show, brought to you by Rogue Media Sports Network. Music. It is the Cam Show. It is Rogue Media Sports Network. It is the South Shore Bureau for the last episode in the South Shore Bureau for now. And it is trade deadline day, July the 30th. No longer July the 31st. This date very special to me. No longer that. July 30th is now the trade deadline day. And the Red Sox have made some moves. Boy, can you get those duck boats ready when Danny Jansen is out there on his way to becoming a Red Sox, and the James Paxton move, which seemed inevitable after he got DFA'd by the the Dodgers. Danny Jansen came from the Blue Jays. I like the Paxton move. I thought you needed a new arm. Really needed two. I don't know if there's two out there to go get for the Red Sox, but that I think is a good move. Really wish you just had picked up his option last year and that he had agreed to it. But here we are. He is a Red Sox and will be starting this week after a pretty decent first half with the Dodgers. One that I was still surprised to see them give up on him. I know Kershaw's coming back, but I was just surprised. You knew you weren't going to get anything for him. Yeah, I would have rather if I were the Dodgers with that lineup outside of Otani and Freeman. I'd rather just let that thing ride and see what you can get out of a starter like that, and hopefully get a year like Jordan Montgomery did for the Rangers last year, knowing you weren't going to get anything for him. Anyway, that's not what today's looking for, or what this segment's looking for anyway. We are going to look at the best trade deadline deals in Red Sox history and a few that really sucked. We listed it to a top five. I've got a few of the honorable mentions for the bad ones that we're going to throw in there. But these deals, what I'm looking at is the deal, first off, like how well the Red Sox made out with what they gave up versus what they got in return. And what will be a big part of this is team success. There's a lot of deals that you would make on July 30th or 31st that you would not make in an off season because you are looking to win now. Okay, so that does play a huge part in this, and we'll see that for sure once we get to some of the top numbers. But without any further ado, starting with number five, this one has the winning dividends. Number five, some dude named Henry Stanley in the minor leagues traded for Dave Roberts from the Dodgers. You might have heard of him. Obviously, been the Dodgers manager for so many years now, but also half a season with the Red Sox and made one of the biggest plays in Boston Red Sox history. Game 4 of the ALCS, down 3-0 and down a run in the ninth inning with Mariano Rivera on the mound. We know the story. Kevin Millar draws the walk. Dave Roberts steals second when the world knows he's going to steal second and comes in to score the tying run, scores the tying run the next night in game 5 as well. And without barely picking up a bat or a glove, he is out there for two of the biggest plays in Red Sox history. He is the one that fuels this 3-0 comeback with his steal of second in game 4 in the ninth inning. A bang bang play that gets closer every time you watch it. Dave Roberts checks in at number 5, half a year with the team, and instantly a place in Red Sox history. Number 4, 2013, Jose Iglesias traded for Jake Peavy. Now, this one at the time was, I don't know if controversial is the right word, but a little bit head scratching because Jose Iglesias had a really positive start to his Red Sox career in 2012 and 2013. He looked like he was going to be a part of your future. You know, maybe not a superstar, but absolutely a guy you could slot in the middle of that infield and be a good player for you. He looked like another on the line of prospects that they had throughout those years that could play the infield positions. The only problem was they had another guy they were ready to bring up. at the shortstop position, a 19, 20-year-old named Xander Bogaerts. He was ready. They knew they were going to bring him up at some point throughout that year. Will Middlebrooks was playing third base at the time. His game had kind of been shot a little bit. He was down in the minors in June, so they brought Iglesias up, but they knew Bogaerts was going to be there, and they needed another starter. And Jose Iglesias gets shipped to Detroit in a three-team deal. Jake Peavy comes over to the Red Sox. And I think the Jake Peavy side of things is slept on how important that was. In fact, I think he's one of the most important guys on that 2013 team. It's not like he, completely shook the world up with how great he was in that second half, mainly as like a fourth or fifth starter. But it was super important because you didn't know who was going to make those starts the last 2 months of the year. How much were you going to see of Felix Dubront or, whomever, Anthony Renato or Alan Webster that you were going to have to rush up to the majors? Who are those guys who are going to be making the starts for you? Whereas Jake Peavy, a guy who, had won a Cy Young Award, who had, been a steady starter for years in MLB, comes in pretty cheap to get him, and he gives you enough. He gives you enough. He gives you 10 starts to round that out. He got his batting average here at the stats I'm looking at for some reason. He hit only 111 in his time, in his 10 starts with the Red Sox. Here we go. 10 starts. He was 12-5. In his time in between Chicago and Boston that year. 4-1 with the Red Sox with a 4.04 ERA. Like, I'll take that. I'll take that because the alternative was not good at who was going to make those starts and was decent enough for you in the postseason and helped you towards a World Series title. Number 3, Aldo Ramirez for Kyle Schwarber, 2021. This was very close. If the Red Sox had won a few more games, this could have been considered the best trade deadline deal in Red Sox history in terms of that season. That's going to make more sense when I do get to number 1. So Kyle Schwarber comes in 21, and you remember he was hurt. He couldn't play right away. He didn't play for I think 2 weeks after they made the deal. And his average is not great and his defense is not terrific, but you needed someone to play first base that actually had some pop. And by the postseason, he was okay at first base, and he definitely provided some pop and had some big homers um, down the stretch for the Red Sox when they got into that wild card game. Um, had hit a big one in the wild card game, hit a couple in the division series, hit a grand slam that was like the last great postseason moment for the Red Sox in that championship series against the Astros in 2021. He just provided some big moments for that team and gave you something at the top of the lineup that they didn't have. And if the Red Sox had gone on to win that series against Houston and go to the World Series, he might have been considered the best rental that you'd ever gotten at the trade deadline. I'll put it that way. If they had made it to the World Series, it would have been the most improbable World Series trip that they had ever had. And that would have been the reason why is Kyle Schwarber. So that takes the number 3 spot. Of course, you know the rest. He doesn't, he declines the mutual option. The Red Sox let him walk in the next year. And it's just kind of a footnote of guy who hit a couple of big bombs for you. Number 2, Red Sox icon Nomar Garciaparra traded for Orlando Cabrera and Doug Minkiewicz. Another 3-team deal. Nomar goes to Chicago. Cabrera comes from Montreal, somewhere Minnesota, gets in that, and Doug Minkiewicz comes over for the Red Sox. Now, are these two guys better than Nomar Garciaparra? Obviously not. No, they were not better players. Um, and Nomar was banged up most of that year. And so it's tough to say whether they gave you more on the field offensively than Nomar would have given you. But where it comes in handy is defense. Nomar was never the best defensive shortstop, much like Xander Bogaerts, very similar players. But he was obviously a great offensive player for years. Once they started testing for steroids, his body started to break down a bit, including that '04 season, the infamous game on July 1st against the Yankees when he was like off the DL, ready to go. They asked him if he could play in this game that went like 15 innings, and he did not. It's kind of spelled the beginning of the end for Nomar. Really, the beginning of the end was when he didn't sign the extension before '03 or '04 as well, and he was going to go to the market. And the Red Sox, this kind of deal was written on the wall. The Red Sox really needed infield defense that year. They didn't. It wasn't great. Pokey Reese was pretty good, but wasn't good enough offensively to keep him in the lineup all the time. And Nomar didn't have the defensive prowess. So what you got was a Gold Glover in Orlando Cabrera at shortstop, one of the best defensive shortstops in the game at the time, and Doug Minkiewicz, who was big time infield defense, especially late in games for Kevin Millar to go out there and look. If you don't have Doug Minkiewicz, you're putting Dave McCarty out there, the late Dave McCarty, and it becomes a lot different in terms of how you can manage the game. And what I mean by that is because you had Doug Minkiewicz, it was very easy to pinch run Dave Roberts for Kevin Millar in Game 4 of the ALCS, and you can put a good defensive first baseman out there like Doug Minkiewicz afterwards, who also held on to the World Series baseball little too long for the final out. But Cabrera was fine for you. Minkiewicz did a job for you. That deal in terms of the defense that you got from it was absolutely pivotal towards getting you a World Series title. And number one, which was not a rental, it was not necessarily like terrific for that year, but is too good to leave off here. I will get to in a minute because I do want to talk about the ones that suck, kind of the honorable mentions for the suck ones. Two in 2014, John Lester for Yoenis Cespedes. Um, the Red Sox were selling that year, but you were like, if you're going to keep one of these guys, it probably should be John Lester. And I know there was talks of them trying to go get him in free agency after that. And that's where this kind of really sucks is that they didn't go and get him in free agency. The Cubs did, and he became a big part of them winning a World Series title as well. Just really sucked. I mean, I think Lester was always undervalued nationally for the kind of pitcher he was, especially in big games. And I mean, Yoenis Cespedes, that was a rental basically. John Lackey that same day for Joe Kelly and Alan Craig. You got something out of Kelly at the end in terms of being a big bullpen piece, but you thought that was going to be a fleece. You were ready to sell anyway, and you got a big impact player in Alan Craig and a starter with a young starter with a 4-pitch arsenal in Joe Kelly. Neither of those things worked out. Again, Kelly gave you something in the bullpen later on, but Alan Craig was a complete waste, just a total waste. Pawtucket legend, Alan Craig. And finally, Curt Schilling. Remember him? Yeah, you actually had him in 93 when you traded him and Brady Anderson for Mike Boddicker of the Orioles. You weren't going anywhere at that time if you're the Red Sox. I know it's two prospects, but in hindsight, the hindsight is 2020. You could have used Curt Schilling for his whole career rather than the great years you got out of him for a World Series in '04 and '07. Brady Anderson gave you a 50 home run year, as we've talked about on Guys Naming Dudes at 96. And what's funny about that is that's actually around a time where the Red Sox were competitive, but could have used an extra bat or two. And that could have been Brady Anderson, 95, 96, 98. And instead, you got Mike Boddicker. That stinks. But also the getting Eric Gagne and giving up David Murphy wasn't great. But my number one of all time, of course, 1997, good year. I hadn't realized for years this was a trade deadline deal, but you traded Heathcliff Slocum to the Seattle Mariners for a couple of farmhands named Jason Varitek and Derek Lowe. Big time ups. Seattle, Heathcliff Slocum did nothing for them. And what you got was two foundational pieces for the 2004 World Series team. Obviously, Varitek on the '07 World Series team as well. Captain of that team and real steady mainstay, team Hall of Famer, Derek Lowe, only guy in baseball history to be the winning pitcher in the decisive games of all three playoff rounds. I mean, how great was that? By the way, Derek Lowe was an all-star starter in '02, threw a no-hitter in there. Jason Varitek caught 4 no-hitters, again, in the Team Hall of Fame, a direct result of that towards a 2004 World Series championship. So it happened in the future, 7 years after the trade, but it was too good to not have that on there. So anyway, that is that. The top 5 Red Sox trade deadline deals of all time, and a few that sucked. We're going to see the best yo-yoer of all time. We're going to find out which states are hater states, which are lover states, and the worst things about the freaking airport. The answer might just surprise you. That's all coming up here on The Cam Show, brought to you by Rogue Media Sports Network. It is a segment we call Braden's Brain here on The Cam Show, brought to you by Rogue Media Sports Network, where we tap into, as the audience tap into, the messed up brain sometimes of my glorious co-host, Braden Murray. Murray, present. Braden, why don't you give us some brain on this Tuesday?
So
What's going on in your life?
This one's not messed up, I would say.
Darn.
It's just based on a tweet that I saw that I thought could be fun.
Okay.
To talk
This
about.
is really what it's about. The things that get your brain moving.
Right.
Things that get the worms going.
So this tweet says, I saw this last night as I was eating dinner. Every state is either a hater state or a lover state. Here's an example that they give. Michigan is a hater state, but Wisconsin is a lover state. So, I'll get it out of the way right now. I say Texas is a hater state.
Okay, I need a little more help on the criteria, though.
There is no criteria. You just got to feel it out.
Okay.
They don't give anything. It's just
South Dakota.
Okay.
What is it?
South Dakota, I think South Dakota is a lover state, and North Dakota is a hater state because they hate that South Dakota has Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore?
What is the North Dakota
That's
have?
it. That's all they've got. I mean, North Dakota, while not glamorous nor sexy, does have the oil fields, which means they have a very low unemployment rate and really great in-state tuition for their colleges, or at least they did 10 years ago when I was looking at the University of North Dakota. My dad loves Fargo, North Dakota. He used to go there a lot for business, loves the place, absolutely loves it. So, and I'm not saying that we're not haters. We can hate with the best of them. So, okay, all right. I'm trying to feel this out myself. I'm gonna throw one. Okay, New Jersey, I'm gonna guess, is a hater state.
Okay.
In fact, most of the Northeast states, I
agree.
would think, like, because I'm trying to think of that Michigan, Wisconsin example. Michigan has a bigger city, Detroit, and obviously a down on its luck city in Detroit. And so I think that lends itself to a colder atmosphere.
Okay.
Philosophically, emotionally.
Okay.
Because Wisconsin's also very cold, literally. But we kind of know them as country bumpkins, Green Bay Packers fans, cheeseheads, Stephen Avery from Making a Murderer. They seem like great down-home people. So in that case, then Maine would be a lover state.
I think Maine's a lover state. So do the
You've
Twitter
been there,
comments.
so you know.
The Twitter comments agree that Maine is the lover state of the Northeast.
Vermont, a lover state?
I would say Vermont, New Hampshire.
Live free or die, baby.
New Hampshire feels like a hater state. I can't explain it.
I don't know. I think New Hampshire gets a bad rap. It's not quite as pretty as Vermont.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty nice. It's a little bit closer to Boston, so maybe that helps with the hater stuff. Connecticut, hater state.
Okay.
And a state I hate, baby. Rhode Island. I'm gonna boldly put it as a lover state,
I would agree that they're a lover state.
even though it's basically an extension of Massachusetts. It's it's obviously very, very small. It's the smallest state in the union, and it's basically a big beach. Like it's all
Yeah,
beach.
I
So
think that's.
I'm gonna call it a lover state.
I'm gonna call Massachusetts a hater
Providence,
state.
Pawtucket are not great. Yeah,
Absolutely a
of
hater
course.
state.
Yeah, Oklahoma.
I'm going lover.
Pff, fuck, it's a hater state because I hate it.
What about Kansas?
Hater state.
Hater state.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm going hater state for the Jayhawks. That's why.
just because you hate the Jayhawks.
Just no, it's just I think Kansas basketball. Um, those people they think they're better than every other college fan base, which I understand. I mean, Kansas has a pretty damn good tradition in basketball, so I'm going to put them as a hater because of that.
Okay. What about Washington and Oregon? Because I'm going with Oregon as the lover state, whereas Washington is the hater state.
I would put them both as lover.
Okay, I could see that. I think Washington is close. They're on the fence.
They're such similar states, which is
Right.
funny. Like they're actually both very rural states, just with both have big ultra liberal cities in Seattle and Portland.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I'll go both lover states. Idaho,
Idaho. Ooh. What do you think Idaho is?
lover state because Sydney Sweeney's from there.
Ah, you love Idaho.
Yeah,
You are Idaho's
Napoleon
lover.
Dynamite, dude. The two greatest cultural things they've given us, plus potatoes.
Potatoes.
Fuck, man, and blue football
They have
fields,
the dome, the Kibbie Dome,
and
Kibble
only a
Dome.
few Mormons. The Kibbe Dome, which was just hundreds of yards away from a big time murder case that we all followed a year ago, but still, lover state. I would fucking live in Idaho. I would so live in Idaho, man. Um, I would live in Idaho so hard.
What is
Um,
what is Nevada? I think it's a lover state.
I think it's a hater state.
Just because of Vegas?
Not even.
Mm.
I think so the rest of Nevada is like almost uninhabited.
Right.
It's like northern Nevada is a very weird part of the country and very sparse and very poor and very white trash. And I think the rest of the state hates that Vegas exists, and therefore I think it's a hater state. And
Okay.
even Vegas is just now in the last 15, 20 years becoming a place where people live year round. Um, so I'm saying it's a hater state. But they
Okay.
do have legal prostitution, so that's doesn't get much more
Where's this
lover
going?
than that.
Okay. I'm going Alaska. Alaska's a lover state. Hawaii is a hater state.
Because they don't want you there?
Exactly. Or
Yeah.
Alaska, I feel
You
like
can't
here,
blame 'em, but
yes,
yeah.
please come. Give us
Here's some
tourism
money to live
Yeah,
here.
they do.
Yeah,
They do that.
they do that. That is true from the Simpsons movie. Yes, I can agree with that. As much as Hawaii should be a lover state, and I'm sure they're great people, they don't want all the tourists there,
Right.
which I also understand.
That's
Um,
respectable.
oh man, that is tough. Now I got to think about how many hater states I've been to. I'm gonna be as this episode is airing and filmed in the Massachusetts Hater State Bureau. I will be in North Carolina.
Mm. North Carolina, that's a hater state. They've got Duke, UNC.
Okay, then let me ask before I throw my hat in the ring here. What about South Carolina?
I think that might also be a kind of a hater state.
It is the birthplace of the Civil War.
Yeah.
It's where that thing all got started.
Mm-hmm.
But also where Mel Gibson's character from The Patriot is from, I believe. and
Okay.
we know how accurate that movie is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, North Carolina's a tough one
You would
because you
want it to be a
mentioned
lover state because it's just very pretty there.
yeah, and I'm gonna be in Charlotte, which is kind of like a bit of a hater town.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bunch of people that are all from other places, and it's a banking town. That's what it's known for. Like, there's not a lot of culture there,
Mm-hmm.
but the rest of North Carolina is great. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Just because you called it a hater state, so I'll call it a lover state.
Okay.
Has this really got you thinking about U.S. geography the last day or so?
It did. Um, Virginia. I'm gonna say Virginia's a hater state,
Really?
and West Virginia is the lover state because they
Do
didn't.
you know? Do you know like Virginia's unofficial motto?
It's called the lover state. That's what the
It's
Twitter
like the
account.
whole thing, the bumper stickers and the T-shirt. Virginia is for lovers.
Yeah, but hear me out. Virginia was the capital of the Confederacy, and West Virginia split off.
Well, if that's how we're doing it, then
Then
yeah.
you can
I
go the
mean,
whole South is the hater state.
yeah, but I mean, then there are some people who would say, like the liberals hate too much, so all the liberal cities are hater cities too.
Mm,
Then we're just stuck with,
the entire
the
country.
Kansases of the world and the Wisconsins. Like we're just stuck with like the upper Midwest. Oh man, yeah, it was the capital of the Confederacy. It's also, I mean, one of the birthplaces of
Of the
this great
country.
nation.
Yeah.
Um, so, but then again, the other one would be Massachusetts, which we have already classified as a hater state. So, a hater
Yeah.
commonwealth. They in Virginia, hater commonwealths. Oh, Braden, that is the peek inside Braden's brain. Have you in the last 24 hours like thought of all 50?
There are a few that have slipped my mind, but a good
Okay.
chunk of them, yeah.
What about Canada?
Canada's not a state. It is a country.
But
Canada is a
hater
lover.
lover country.
I think so.
See, I think that's a misconception.
Mm.
I do. Everyone thinks Canada's so great because they're a little bit nicer than us. But trust me, once you get into the hockey world, you'll notice they're just like you and me. They will stoop just as low as we will. They will be they're hosers for a reason, man. Love the Great White North, but it is a hater country. Just as much as I love my home in Massachusetts, it's a hater
It's
state.
a hater
So
state.
Canada, you hate well, and that's a compliment. That is Braden's brain. Anything else you want to add to that, Braden? Anything else profound you've learned about life?
No, I don't think so.
Hmm. Touching. It really is. That is Braden's brain. We're gonna hear more from Braden's brain, actually, about the airport specifically. But before that, we do have someone with immense talent that is in our studio that I want him to spin for you guys. Welcome back to the Cam Show, Rogue Media Sports Network. Wow. Those yo-yo skills, man.
Insane in the membrane.
Those were off the chain. The kids still say that? They didn't say that when I was a kid. Wow. Like, do you ever just see stuff like that, Braden, and you're like,
What have I been doing?
yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're going to start to get into this phase of life in the next few years where you start to see great pro athletes that are younger than you, and you're like, fuck,
I'm already there.
man, right? And like, so you've started to see it a little bit.
Yeah.
And you do think about that, but then you're also like, some people are just like have a God-given talent, like they spend their whole life doing this. Like they have to have some breaks along the way. Like I just wasn't born, you or I were
Talented.
not born with the athletic talent to even begin to think about a career like that. But then there are some things like Yo-Yo where you're like, not to say this isn't impressive, but that he's just worked hard at it,
Mm-hmm.
man. He has worked hard and gotten that stuff down. And that's like that and the Rubik's Cube and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
or kids who are our age and they're CEOs. That's different. I just that kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, what have I been doing? Why couldn't I just master anything like that? Instead, I'm pretty mediocre at talking on the radio.
Yeah.
And this is where we're at now. But that's not what this segment's about. As much as I would love to talk about the yo-yo skills, res ipsa loquitur, it speaks for itself. You just saw it. It was unbelievable. But I'm at the airport today. I was at the airport the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I really love to travel.
Me too.
You like to travel too, Braden. I know. Yeah. You're a big fan of it. And like I don't have a fear of flying or anything, but what I hate is the process of it all.
Mm.
I'm so sick of the goddamn airport, man. I hate how many hoops you have to jump through just to get there. I hate that you can't just park there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At most airports, not the Waco airport. That's not a problem. But
Yeah.
like I hate that you just can't freaking park there. Like I have a trip in a couple weeks that I'm leaving. My flight's on a Saturday morning and I fly back Sunday afternoon. Like why can't I just park there for a day and pay you $10?
Right.
Why do I have to book it in advance and for it to be more expensive? All that shit. I hate how much it takes to get there, how much time you got to allot to just to make sure that you're okay to go there, like go through security, and how much time you sit on the plane, all this shit. It's just a mess every time.
Mm-hmm.
So, Braden, I had you think about, because you had a big trip recently within the last few months, your least favorite things about the airport
Let
and
me
the
start
etiquette
by
that people go out with.
saying that you travel more than I do, so you have more reason to hate the airport. Like
Sure. And
growing
this
up,
and this summer is a bit of an anomaly, but
right?
yeah.
Growing
Yeah.
up, and even now, we didn't fly a whole lot. We were
Mhm.
big road trippers, so I love the airport.
What's funny about that is I'm kind of in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that I went out of state for college, so I started to fly a lot. But
Yeah.
yes, I was always road tripping with the family. We rarely could afford flights for the whole
Right.
family.
Right.
That wasn't a thing to budget out. And so, yes, the first couple of times when I was going back and forth to college, like I liked it. Like I didn't mind it. But anyway, go ahead. Yes.
I think it is going to the airport is now that I've gotten older, it's definitely more tedious, but I still get that the butterfly in my stomach, kind of like, ooh, I'm going
The
somewhere.
airport.
I'm going to the airport. Ooh.
This person next to me might be going to Mongolia.
Right. I like the airport, but it's definitely there are definitely people there that get on my nerves.
What it does is it takes you out of a bubble.
Yes.
And all of us have some sort of bubble, whether we like to agree or not. I think some people have much more of a bubble.
Mm-hmm.
But you and I, college educated people, we go to work, we work with very motivated people. We're kind of, with one sector of society, whether we like to believe it or not. When you go to the airport, you're not.
Yes.
You're with all kinds of people from different backgrounds and therefore different etiquette standards. And
Mhm.
so, um, but like I hate, once you make it through security and you're walking through a walkway of an airport, man, and people are just like standing there at the most inconvenient spots. I'm just like, move the hell out of the way. Like this is how life works. Don't you guys drive on the
Yeah.
roads? Or or my new favorite is now they have to tell people on the airplane, "Hey, if you want to listen or watch something, please have your headphones in."
Yeah. Yeah.
How many times am I sitting on an airplane or at the gate and I've got some asshole across the way from me who is like watching TV out loud? Like, what are you doing, man? At where in your life is that acceptable? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I sometimes when my AirPods don't connect right away and I start playing my podcast, I get so
Oh,
like
yeah.
embarrassed that someone has heard my music or my podcast for
And
5
it's
seconds.
like nothing bad too. It's just
No, I just like, "Oh, sorry,"
you get 3 seconds of Glenn Campbell or something. You're like, oh,
Like,
my bad.
who thinks that people wanna hear the TV show they're listening to?
Or they're like
Oh,
they're
that
on the
str
speakerphone
oh my fucking
talking at
god.
full. Yeah.
Dude,
You can
that
just
also
hear
used
their
to happen
whole
when I took the
conversation.
subway to work. You'd be surprised at how many people just think that's okay. Nobody wants to hear your conversation
Mm-hmm.
in this loud public place, which therefore, because there's so many people, it's a louder public place. Therefore, you have to be louder for all of those people to hear. God, I fucking hate that. I hate that. And what has happened so much more recently is, and this isn't even like a people's etiquette thing. This is the airlines getting everyone onto the plane and then just sitting there for 45 minutes
Yeah.
to an hour before taking off. That I cannot fucking stand. And most of the time they don't tell you. So it's like, hey, I don't know. We've been sitting here for a half hour. I kind of have to go to the bathroom. Can I do that? Like,
No.
do I have to ask permission to go to the bathroom? Are we going to take off while I'm taking a piss? Or, the AC vents don't really work until you start moving. And
Mm.
so you could just be sitting there and it's like 85 degrees on the airplane because you're not moving and nothing's helping. It has become so tedious. So tedious. So Braden, let me ask you this. Your go-to, like if you were going to the airport right now,
Okay.
how does it look if it's all going well? Like how early are you getting there? What are you eating when you get there? What do you get at the Hudson newsstand that's double what it would be outside the airport, but
Right.
you have to buy something in there? What are you reading or listening to? Walk me through that.
Okay.
I'm putting you on the spot here.
You are. That's fine. I think I would want.
Domestic flight, no checked bag.
Okay. I think I would want to get there an hour 45 to 2 hours
Mhm.
before takeoff. Like so for when we went to Portland for March Madness, we got there an hour 45 or so. Security was minimal because it was the Austin airport on a Thursday. It wasn't bad. And we were still kind of running late, but that's besides the point. Get through security in, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. Nothing bad. What do I get? I usually get a water.
Mhm.
'Cause,
Good.
flight dehydrates you.
Does, yeah.
And I usually get a pack of gum if I don't have gum already to keep my ears from hurting. And maybe like a
Yeah.
sandwich or a salad or something. Nothing
All right.
nothing too heavy.
Yes. That's good because you know what I also have a big gripe with
Hmm.
or airport wise is the Austin airport. I've
Okay.
flown out of there a few times. It's usually fairly easy.
Mm-hmm.
But what I hate about it is the food options. Because Austin, in all its glory and all it's better than everyone else, it does like only local food options.
Right.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like looking at the map, trying to figure out what these places serve. And I'm just like, can I just get a fucking McDonald's? It's 10 in the morning. I just want a couple of hash browns.
Right.
Like I know what I'm getting there at McDonald's. I love a good local place when I go and travel,
Mm-hmm.
but like I I just give me a McDonald's or a Chick-fil-A. I know what I'm gonna get. I don't have to think about it. And instead, I'm like going to this pizza place at the Austin airport. I'm getting 2 slices. It's $25.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck? So Washington Reagan, I
Okay.
flew out of last year.
I like that airport.
That had a Five Guys in my terminal,
Mm-hmm.
which fucking rocked. That was
That's nice.
awesome.
That's nice.
That's the best eating I've ever had at an airport. Also flew from O'Hare last year and had a Chili's. They did not have the Big Mouth Bites, which, by the way, we just got a Chili's at DFW. Did not have the Big Mouth Bites, but still, Chili's is pretty good. Pretty good burger overall, full size burger. Anyway, you still prefer a road trip though, Braden?
Um, Depends on the company.
Yeah, it's a select few, I bet.
Yeah.
I get that.
We road
Because
tripped.
overall, I would.
We road tripped around, and also we flew for
Uh-huh.
Sweet
New
16.
England?
We flew
Oh,
for women's Sweet 16, and we drove for men's
oh,
round of third
gotcha.
64.
Gotcha.
Um, I mean, flying. I preferred flying in that scenario
Okay.
because you have so many
With the people
bags. You
you're
don't.
with.
Yeah,
Yeah, that too. That too. You bring the equipment and shit. I love a good road trip.
me too.
Even a solo road trip. Actually, I love a solo road trip, man. That is
Even in
fun.
the New England trip, we flew to Boston, but we drove up the coast to
Drove to
Maine.
Maine. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was super pretty and super nice.
Yeah, I'll take a road trip. I'll take a road trip. That's Braden Murray. I'm Cam Stewart. This is the Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network. We'll be back tomorrow talking about other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see you then.
See ya.
We are Rogue Media Sports.